of the Pirate Talks. We do want to let everybody know that we have Tanya Jackson here with us this week, and she will be translating our entire presentation and the talk and discussion into sign language. So if you guys need the interpretation, you can pin her little box on your WebEx screen as you see fit. So due to some unforeseen circumstances, the talk that we had originally planned for tonight from Julianne Music, who is in the School of Dentistry, we had to postpone her talk to later this semester. So we decided to use the opportunity of now tonight being a little bit more open to hold an open dialogue between some students at ECU about a topic that's relevant, a little controversial, and has definitely been in the news, especially over the past few months. So we have a really great, diverse panel of students that will be leading our conversations, and we're going to be focused on protests tonight. So we also want to shout out to Josiah Thornton, who has really helped us organize a lot of these speakers tonight, and we are so appreciative, beyond appreciative, to have had him help us over the past literally 23 and a half hours organize all of the stuff with us. And we're really excited to get to speak to everybody and get to know a little bit about everyone.
Yes. Before we begin tonight, we kind of want to go over a little bit of just kind of what we have planned, especially since this is also last minute for all of us. We're going to begin with a reading from of the land acknowledgement statement. We'll then allow our speakers to introduce themselves and kind of go over a brief history of protests and protests in sports and how they've kind of been viewed across the media. To kind of address this, I think from some kinks that we had last week, I think everyone is now able to see that there are other attendees involved, which last week nobody could, even though we had over 70 attendees. As well, or along with that, if you have any questions as we go along, please submit them to the Q&A. We're going to be kind of monitoring that as we go along so we can moderate these questions to our lovely panelists that we're so glad to have. Now I'm going to turn it over to Chris for the land acknowledgement statement.
Am I unmuted? Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Rickson. I'm a second year's master's student in sociology, but I'm also here because I'm somebody who's openly gay and also HIV positive. Tonight, I'm going to recite a land acknowledgement statement that was adopted by SGA a while back. And we find this to be important because it's important that we remember that this land was stolen and that colonization is an ongoing process and injury in this country and across the globe. And therefore, we must take steps to bring forgotten histories into our shared collective consciousness. We acknowledge the Tuscarora people, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live, and recognize that their continuing connection to the land, water, and air that Greenville consumes. We pay respect to the 8 recognized tribes, the Coharie, Eastern Band of Cherokee, Halawa Saponi, Lumbee, Meherrin, Occaneechi Band of Saponi, Saponi, and Waccamaw Siouan, all nations and their elders past, present, and emerging. And now I'm going to turn it over to Josiah for a brief history on the history of protest.
Before we do that, I wanted to go ahead and have our speakers introduce themselves, and then we will go, and then we'll start into the history. So we will start with Marius. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Marius Morrison. I'm the president of Phi Beta Sigma and also the president of the MPHC Council. Little thing about me, I was in the Army for 6 years, and after being active duty, I actually came to East Carolina. So nice to meet y'all.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you here. Bianca, did you want to go ahead next?
Hi, I'm Bianca Mewborn. I'm a senior undergraduate at East Carolina University. I am here because of my interest in sexuality. I am an African American or transgender woman of color.
Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this panel. Again, I'm going to keep saying it, but we are so excited to have you here and so grateful that you all could do this so last minute. Raymond, would you like to go ahead?
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for setting this up. Thank you everybody for attending. Everyone is watching in accordance right now. I just want to point out that diversity and inclusion is a very, very important topic nowadays. We see changes come, as we progress through this age and time through every generation. And right now we're just going through a big change right now. So I want to tell a little bit of myself. I'm gonna keep it short. Senior public health major. I'm just happy to be here and talk it up with y'all.
Again, I know I'm a broken record. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited, and we're so grateful that I'm going to say with Josiah's help, but really he did all of this, helped to bring you all together to kind of form this panel for us tonight. We really wanted to make sure that in the limited amount of time we had, we were able to get as diverse a panel as possible, and Josiah was really integral in facilitating that. Thank you all. And so now I'm, with Emma's help, going to kind of go into some of the history of protests. And then we'll get some of this discussion started. Josiah really was the facilitator of this as well. So we have a lot to thank him for. We'll send him a fruit basket. So the history of speaking and protesting in America presents a diverse range of public radio and television content. This includes all things, local news, people that you talk to in your departments, people you interact with all the time. And all of this impacts our First Amendment rights. And that's integral, again, to what we're talking about tonight with protests. By focusing on our right to speak, assemble, petition, this just explores our roles as Americans and how we can better represent ourselves through this. And I'm going to go off script here a little bit and say that it's particularly important for everyone, right? America was formed because of protests. The reason we are the United States of America is because of a protest, one that, turned violent in order to get what was needed, in order to get what the people's demands were. The people had their demands and they were not met. These things escalated. It's important to acknowledge that as we start talking about protests, because that is what this ground is built on. And it's also important to acknowledge that every single marginalized group has gotten the rights that they deserve by protesting. This includes the civil rights movement. This even includes, Emma and I were watching Les Miserables the other day, and the French Revolution is also based on people protesting for their rights. And it's important as we start to think about the individuals protesting in our country right now that we take this history into acknowledgement, to not take into account that protests have helped shaped everything in history is very, very trivializing to the individuals protesting right now and makes their cause look less than it is.
I was totally letting you on.
I definitely went off the script and kind of took over everything. But now I kind of want to go ahead and open it up to discussion with our panelists. And we want to start with a very broad question for you all. And again, attendees, as you have questions or comment, please submit that in our Q&A chat. We'll moderate to our panelists as they come in. So we want to start with the really broad question of what does protest mean to you? And anyone can start.
Okay, I'll start. Okay, protest means so many things to me. Protest, for one, means freedom of my speech, being able to express my concerns and my fears for the way the world may react to groups or situations they may not understand or even understand. And having the right to assemble and protest gives me the confidence as well as the energy to put myself on the forefront, not just for myself, but for all of my communities due to my intersectionality.
Well, that was nice. Protest to me, honestly, is just making a statement of what you believe in. if this is like a just cause, and if someone or something or some oppressor is doing something wrong, then it's your right to speak on the anything that is wrong towards you or a certain community. So that's what protest means to me.
Speak real quick. Protesting in many forms is a way of standing up for those who can't speak for themselves in certain situations. And a lot of these problems come up because they're ignored by the people who don't share the same issue. So that's why protesting is so important to standing up for these issues.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So we did ask for some questions from people that we know from around town before we started this, and we're going to start kind of funneling those in as we wait for questions to come in our Q&A.
No? Okay. So I'm going to start with a question. So my background, my family is traditionally Jewish, so I'm very culturally Jewish, and that's a big part of my life. Maybe not unfortunately. In general, a lot of anti-Semitism, we don't normally see a lot of protests for necessarily Jews. You'll see some things against and all things. So I guess the question would be, how do you know if a cause is just to protest? Like what has to happen for a cause to be not worthy of, but lead to a protest?
And in your opinion, you do not have to pull out primary journal articles for this.
Yeah, it is totally open. I mean, that's what we want, is to know like what causes protests to start and what makes something worthy of.
I'll start off again. There's so many things that factor, if you ask me. Just as simple as crime being committed against nature, crimes being committed against people, justice as far as unfair and unequal treatment towards people, sexism, like some of our most recent movements, kind of mirror the past. You look at the visuals of the Black Lives Matter movement, and it almost mirrors images from the 1960s civil rights movement. You look at the Women's March that we had here in the Millennium, it's like the suffrage movement all over again, and if history continues to repeat itself, people will continue to speak up for what they believe in and fight for what they believe is right and what they believe is just.
Honestly, I would say violation or denying people their basic rights. Most protests, if people understand what someone is saying and they don't give them an adequate answer, for example, women's voting rights and stuff like that. If the government or people actually would have taken women at that time seriously, then there would be no need of protesting. But usually it's like an oppressor who oppresses people and don't give people their basic rights, and people get riled up because they're saying like, why are this group of people able to do something I'm a person too and I'm unable to do it? So I think when you take away people's rights, basic rights, that's what really causes protests.
Thank you, Morrison. Everything I've been hearing, it all comes down to, I guess you could say, the principle of fairness. Where can we find this fairness in this country that we find ourselves in? Well, we're going to have to see change at the policy level. And how do we get there? You got to get the community together. Protest. That's how we do it.
So I guess my next question then is, what happens, or I guess what leads to a protest going from being completely peaceful to turning somewhat violent? I know I'm going to get you all riled up. I think it's a question that, we've talked about, me and Zoe. It's really an important thing for everyone to understand, and myself included. I could hear this a million times and still ask the question.
Honestly, in my opinion, be those outliner type of people. But what people have to understand is people are hurt. People have for generations been going through issues that has not been resolved, and they're trying to find an alternate way, because first things first, people went to our government didn't help us. They're trying to go to community, the community didn't help us. Most people just want basic rights, and for some people it's very frustrating and they just explode. Honestly, it's hard to explain it because a lot of people haven't dealt with that pressure of generations of people being oppressed. For example, use drugs, like for example, marijuana in the 90s or 80s or stuff like that. People's families were strung out on hard drugs, marijuana. You have generations of Black men in prison, and like 30 years later, now it's an opium crisis and people are getting seen and they're getting help. And it's like what happened to my father and my grandparents when they needed this help? The government abandoned us as people. So it's a lot of reasons why it turned violent, but honestly, just people are being hurt and they're not being heard.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off of that, and I sometimes describe it this way. By the way, I'm acting as a moderator and a panelist. My background, I am, my mom's Caribbean, very dark-skinned Black woman. My dad is white, and I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, which is one of the hot spots of everything that's going on. And to get even more honest, the killing of Breonna Taylor, actually, a cop that I worked with was one of the ones that was implicated in her shooting. So I've been really very involved in all of this. And one way that I like to describe it to people, as far as to Emma's question, why protests get quote unquote violent. And I trivialize it a bit, but it's, when you have, a toddler, let's say, right? And they're asking you for something, they're asking you for it and asking you for it. And then you repeatedly shut them down. What do? The only thing they can do, the limbic system, all of these things tell them to just react. And that's all people can do at that point. You build them up and you tell them no so many times that, in my opinion, there's nothing left to do but react. And I agree with you. I think that a lot of it is, there's a lot of instigators. A lot of my friends have been posting about all of the protests going on, and a lot of it has been inflamed by people that are not actually part of the protests, or just a few select individuals. And I think it's important to acknowledge that that's not the protest in and of itself, right? That's a few individuals. I just kind of wanted to see what you all had to say in regard to that too.
Well, as far as why protests turn violent, let's just be clear, all protests don't turn violent. Violence occurs during certain protests, and what I think it's important to look at is what protest this violence occurs and why the violence occurs during this protest. There was no physical violence during the Women's March. There was no physical violence during the Million Man March, or the second or third Million Man March that occurred. But it seems like during gay rights protests, there seems to have been violence. It seems like protests that are organized specifically by the Black Lives Matter movement seem to have the shroud of riots and looting clouding the movement. So I don't specifically feel as if the protest itself or themselves are the catalysts for the violence. I would think it's little nuanced factors. I would like to say that increased police presence, to me, contributes to a lot of the violence with the protests. You have peaceful protesters in front of the White House being confronted with rubber bullets and tear gas for doing what? Holding hands and chanting. So I personally think that the increased police presence and military force, it's like a sign of aggression towards the protesters, which in return, you can get an aggression back from people who were peaceful, came in a peaceful mindset and came with a peaceful approach and can be provoked by that in some instances.
I agree that there's a lot of modifying factors related to the outcome of a protest. It's never as simple as, oh, it's because of this, you know. Yeah, look, the whole, like you pointed out, the whole social atmosphere, the whole everything changes once the police see the protest, and it's something they may not maybe agree with, and they increase the presence. You know, you see police interactions. I'm pretty sure that they're a little different from certain other protests. You know, you look at Reopen and see, it just shows. Look at the history of all these protests, and you can see how big of an impact police presence has.
Yeah,
And it's not just here in America. You know, if you look across the globe at policing, you look at the policing in China, you look at the policing in the Middle East, and in certain countries, they don't have the right to freedom of speech like we do. You know, they have sanctions on their social media, what they can say, what they can't say, what will make them a quote unquote enemy of the state or enemy of the people or enemy of the country. So it's not the same as it is here, but it's a lot of mirrors.
Yeah, I think you all bring up a lot of really good points. So one of the questions that actually was brought up to me the other day when I broached this topic with someone was, you know, specifically looking to the NBA, right? They asked, you know, it's so disrespectful to protest against the flag. Isn't there another way that they can protest? And I have my thoughts on this, but I want to open it up to you all first. Do you think that there is a more respectful way that they could protest or go about their demands?
Listen, I'm sorry, you go.
You sure? You can go. No, you can go.
I get a lot of flack on social media for my opinions because I'm candid and I say what I feel and I stand behind it. This is a Black person. I'm the descendant of slaves. And to be quite honest, the flag means nothing to my forefathers. My forefathers built this country with their blood, sweat, tears through bondage under this flag. So I don't have the same sentiment as other people who may consider themselves patriots, but I do respect people that consider themselves American, that have sacrificed their life and their liberty to protect this country. I respect our military. I respect our government, but I can't respect the way we got here because, as it was said earlier, acknowledging the plight of indigenous people from this country, I still sympathize with that demographic of people where you honestly, literally just don't see them. And as deeply affected as the African American community has been by the bondage of slavery, the Jim Crow era, redlining, civil rights, the war on drugs, it doesn't pale in comparison to the experience of the Native people. You know, their numbers. Like, can you until I went to university, it's the first time I've ever seen ever. You know, to the point where it was almost a genocide. So as far as the flag is concerned, I don't think it's disrespectful to take a knee. I actually think it's quite respectful. I don't think it's disrespectful raise a fist. I think it's quite respectful. It's peaceful and it's simply making a statement. And it's not necessarily targeted towards the flag, but what the flag represents for some and what it means to others.
I was going to say, as someone who served in the Army for 6 years, it's very interesting when people say it's disrespectful to the flag and they never served in the military at all. They're like, oh, my grandfather. No, it's what about you've done? You're not a patriot because your parents did something. You know what I'm saying? It's just funny to me. So first thing I would like to say is a flag is a piece of cloth. That's all the flag is. You know, when people knee in front of the flag, you're just kneeling in front of a shirt, basically, with the color. The flag, what it represents, no one's disrespecting what the flag represents. And that's where it's not disrespectful, because no one is being blatantly disrespectful towards it or its principles or ideas. This is supposed to be America, you know, the land of the free, the land where we're supposed to have our First Amendment, you know, and people expressing their rights in a productive way. I just don't understand why people think it's disrespectful, you know, because then now you're trying to be like China and say, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that. No, it's America. We were born here. We're taught that we are free. We have freedom of speech. So why can we not exercise it in a respectful way? But that's just how I feel about it.
I mean, when you look at it, how it all started with Colin Kaepernick over in the National Football League, he's taking a knee, and it was for a reason. You know, he wasn't trying to just straight disrespect the flag. At least that's what I don't think his intention was. His intention was to bring, you know, some light on the issues of police brutality at the time, and it's still currently happening. Now you see the NFL wants to turn their head around and say, "Oh, we were wrong," because it came to light, and people actually starting to believe this is something that's important. And when you look, like, yeah, it's a flag, but it's more of a symbol than anything, you know. You know, I have military heritage. You know, we have people of military heritage who are currently in the service right now on this call, I'm sure. And I think they're too focused on the counter argument of, oh, this disrespects our armed forces, instead of focusing on, oh, he's kneeling because he believes this is wrong. See, we're all too focused on the wrong thing. Don't look at just the counter argument. Look at the symbol of the protest. What's the purpose?
I completely agree. And I saw some pretty aggressive remarks about NBA teams kneeling on 9/11 for the flag. And they're like, you know, this is so disrespectful to, you know, EMS and first responders and all of that. And I was confused because the flag really doesn't do anything for that. But, you know, I was like, okay, well, let me look into it. I wanted to see how it started. So I put my journalism skills to the test and started researching. And, you know, Colin Kaepernick actually originally started sitting. And then Eric Reed, one of his teammates, kind of was alarmed too over police brutality when a Black man was killed in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where he was from. And he asked, you know, Colin how he could help with his cause. He was like, I want to do something. And so they actually reached out to another former NFL player and former Green Beret, who's actually a white dude, who his name is Nate Boyer, I believe. And he said, I think this is great. What I think you should do is kneel, because kneeling is a sign of, you know, you're upset about something, but it's still a sign of respect. Across so many cultures, kneeling is a sign of respect. So actually, when they started these protests, the advice they were given was from someone from the military and the NFL and someone white about how to respectfully protest the flag or how to respectfully protest police brutality and to stand up for issues of social justice while still saying something and not, you know, disrupting everything, not doing something so disrespectful. Yeah, I was shocked because I didn't know that story. And, you know, I looked it up specifically kind of for this and to talk to some people about it. And I think the history of it means a lot. Another comment that I get from anyone asking questions about NBA is, why don't they just say something? Like, it's so disrespectful to do, you know, to kneel in front of the flag. Why don't they just say something instead? And I kind of wanted to see what you all had to say about that.
I would tell you something that was said. It's funny. A couple years ago, I can't remember what reporter said this about LeBron James, but she said, shut up and play basketball. And that is what it's like. Nothing people can do is good enough, because you're saying, how about you do this? How about you do that? And it's like, we've already checked this box. Like, what more do you want? Like, we're just really trying to make change. And which is crazy is that people are just trying to make change and try to make America a safer place and more equal. And it's like, why would you be opposed to helping out a cause like that? But, you know.
I want to jump in just a second. I believe that in America, we place so much value on the race, the gender, and we take those two. I was just race and gender as an example. You know, for instance, what titles do we carry? I'm a Black man. I'm a Black son. I'm a Black veteran. I was also in the Marine Corps as well, amongst these veterans on the panel. A Black entrepreneur. I'm a Black student. I'm a Black future lawyer. A Black father. But at the end of the day, I'm a human being. I'm a human. And this kind of pulls on what Bianca and Marius and also my fellow colleague Raymond said. You know, at the core essence of a protest, people are wanting a voice. We live in a country that put a 3/5 compromise that said Black people are only 3/5 of a person and could be counted maybe towards a vote. And then I just wanted to add this little small piece in there, what I said just a moment ago. Nothing that erodes the rule of law can be moral. There is no rule of law in any society in which you're denied housing, turned away from schools, hospitals, financial, anything. An unjust law is no law at all, meaning you got a right, a civil duty to resist with violence or civil disobedience. And in the end, the government should hope that we choose the latter. So you can be disobedient, but be civil about it, okay, and go about it in the right way. And I think that at the end of the day, protest is basically the people saying enough is enough. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And as Bianca said earlier, not every protest is violent and crazy and radical. I think that what happens is that in this new norm that we live in, when things are peaceful and it's effective change, it's almost like trying to get like a scab on a cut. Like they're trying to pick and pick and pick. You're looking for the negative seed. So I think that when we take off the labels and we shed the different, epithets of what we think society and morality should be when it comes to citizens, and just look at it as human beings. Can I be a human? Can I just be a human, you know what I'm saying, and treat me with respect and dignity and let me live in this world and have the same voice be heard like everybody else? Thank you.
Josiah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, except for I like labels. I don't think that we should shed the labels. I think we should embrace the labels. The labels need to be more visible. We need to embrace people who are not Black, need to embrace Blackness. People who are not white need to embrace whiteness. People who are not Indigenous should embrace Indigenous. People who are heteronormative should embrace homonormativity. So once these things are brought to the forefront, it's not odd to see a LGBT person in a position of power. It's not weird to have a white person in a predominantly Black space. It's not obscene to see a Black person in a predominantly white space. Everyone is seen for who they are and embraced for who they are. I try to say the normalization of differences is what will eliminate the differences.
And to just add to that, Bianca, as my colleague, I do want to say, when I said the shedding of the labels, I mean in a minority world versus a majority world. We as I'll just use as Black people, as a Black man. There's so many labels, and maybe we had a conversation earlier today, and last night too. There's so many labels. Just as people of color, we have to perform 10 times better than our counterparts to the left and right of us. Okay, so in that sense, the labels must come off. But when that day comes, then we can be embraced fully for our, our different commonalities that intersect together. And I always respect your opinions and whatnot. And you made a very good point. we need to embrace our own uniqueness, but at the same time, until America can realize that each person has uniqueness and acknowledge it and acknowledge the fact that we do not even like to even recognize each other's uniqueness, we cannot. How are we going to come together? So you made a good point, BJ. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
And if I might add, if Zoe and Emma are okay with that, something that came to mind when Bianca and Josiah, when you were speaking, is that when you're a marginalized person, whether you're Black, brown, gay, your very existence is an act of protest against a system that is systemically violent towards you at every step and at every corner. And that's something I think, it's really important to keep in mind. And it really, I think that when you see it that way, it makes sense why these systems are designed the way that they are, because they're used to benefit the majority and make sure that those who are marginalized stay on those margins and that they can't intrude into that center. And, we all take risks every day as marginalized people, no matter which marginalized community you come from. And I know I said this to Zoe and Emma earlier, and it's disheartening, but also empowering to know that your very existence makes those that feel as if your existence is a threat to them, it makes them uncomfortable. And I think it's important that they sit with that and that they be uncomfortable.
And to echo that as well, I mean, it also makes it so that you're able to have open and honest discussions about your backgrounds and your struggles, and also enables you to ask for help, because if you can't be honest about what your struggles are, or the emotional labor that you're putting into things, then you can't ask for help. Mm-hmm. And your peers and friends, anyone can't provide that help for you because they have no idea what you're going through. So breaking down those barriers is really important. And honestly, I mean, what people are protesting needs to happen, but a lot of these things too are because the protesting are not getting the help that they need as well. I mean, in many ways, right? That's part of what the protest is. But I want to go ahead and turn it over to someone that has a question, Dr. Lust. Tanya, if you could unmute him, please.
Dr. Lust, you're unmuted.
Okay, I'm not sure if he can hear or if we can hear him. His microphone may be muted. So in the meantime, while we figure that out, we have another question in the chat.
So we have a question from an attendee, and it's, why is violence in protest being centered around people who are not a part of the movement? And saying that, uprisings have been an integral part of every movement that we've had. So, doing this is really kind of diminishing the importance of protests.
Do you all find that it's being centered wrongly? I know we've kind of touched on it a bit.
I'll kind of touch on it a little bit. Let's look at the standby effect, okay? And you got a person that's standing by and they're looking at the consensus of the whole of the group, and they think, okay, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna put my phone, I'm gonna record, and maybe so-and-so is gonna help the man that's getting beat up by the police not get killed, and so it's kind of hard sometimes to, and this is gonna sound like kind of ugly, but I'm not being ugly, but I'm being real. So it's kind of hard sometimes to pick and choose out of the bunch who's a troublemaker, who's an insider, and who's the really do-gooder. But in the truth, and that's to answer the person's question, in that question, what you can ask yourself is, what are you doing, okay, to make the protest nonviolent? What are you doing to make an impactful change so that with everything we do, it does not turn to unrest? Now, there's going to be a portion of every protest where it's going to have some unrest, whether it's through violence, whether it's through a sit-in, a stand-in. It's going to be something where you're going to actually buck. It's going to be some kind of bucking. But when it comes to violence, I think that a lot has to do with the media too. The media will sensationalize and, oh, did you see 12 rioters blew up a car? And then you're like, well, over here, you see all this stuff over here and it's peaceful. And as a Black man, You know, I know when Alton Sterling and Philip Castile got killed that summer, I didn't realize until my mom and my fiance said so. I did not go out the whole summer because of the media, because I work in the law. I work in city government. I work in Dean's office. So it makes you very like still, like, whoa, you know. So with that being said, I hope I answered that question. Get a little insight on that. It's probably my opinion. That's just my opinion, my point of view.
Absolutely. Really fast, just about another minute or two on this topic, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Go ahead.
I was going to say the media does a great job in dividing people and having these false narratives. Like I used earlier, when it comes back to drugs in the 90s, war against drugs, how, you know, African Americans or blacks are thugs or criminals and doing everything that everybody else is doing. You know what I'm saying? So I think the media is doing a great job in dividing the masses, but that's when it comes to really get to know people. That's when it comes like to, instead of watching social media and watching TV and stuff like that, who do you know who are representatives of that firsthand, you know? So I hope that answered your question.
As a journalist, it really worries me because a lot of people have the narrative that the media, a lot of people hold the media responsible. And I get it. But, you know, when you say the media, that is such a broad topic and it doesn't single out where the actual issue is, because the issue is not the reporter. The issue is not the camera person. The issue is not the fact checker. The issues are the gatekeepers, the people who are and what it is that goes out. And I believe that because there is a lack of minority inclusion in those high-powered positions, you know, we need more Hispanic gatekeepers. We need more Black gatekeepers. We need more women in those producing roles in these media organizations, so that there can be a more well-rounded, more just coverage of what it is that's being disseminated to the people, because it's these people's jobs to put out what's newsworthy, and that is in the eye of the beholder of who it is that is gatekeeping. And when you're competing with different networks and they're showing this footage, they're getting more of the viewership, you know, you want to show that same footage, you want to cover those same stories. And I'm not saying that it's right, because I would like for things to be covered differently. And that's why I myself am a journalist and I'm going into this field, so I can use my intersectionality to spark change and how some of this content comes out to the public.
Yes, and the attendee that asked the question further went on to explain. She said it's more about. Oh, hold on, messed it up. It's more about the riots within the protest. They're a necessary part. So why centered around the people who are not within the movement when they are? Uprisings make change whether people want to acknowledge it or not, and reference Stonewall riots, which is also very interesting because we talked about it in our meeting as well. Yes. And then we had one last question, and then we will wrap this up.
So this comes from a professor here. So, you know, if we look back in history, college students are oftentimes at the forefront of the fight for social justice. And, you know, we talk to each other, we communicate, we work with people who are different than us. And you know, we can attest, Zoe and I have lots of uncomfortable conversations almost every day at work. And it's taught both of us so much. So do you guys have any advice for any ECU students who see what's going on and want to be a part of it and they want to help and then, you know, make changes and want to be a part of the fight?
Honestly, just really build these relationships. Everything's really built on building a relationship. Just like you said, y'all two have a talking relationship. Really get to know people on a personal level, understand what they're saying. Because again, when you go on Twitter, social media, the news and stuff like that, it can be portrayed a different way. So really just get to understand people, really get to know them, understand the culture, background, and really make an informative decision.
Yeah, I'll say you're in college. You're going to meet lots of different people, all walks of life, all backgrounds. Use this as an opportunity to become a more diverse individual, more culturally competent individual. Don't get to college and stick to the same group you are used to your whole life. Step out of your comfort zone, make these relationships, connect with them, and learn. You may not know it all, man. There's so much diversity in thought.
I agree with you. I love being Black. I love my Black community. I love my people. I love being LGBT. Before the pandemic, I used to love going to the resource office and meeting different brothers and sisters. But I spent more of my time talking to people who were not like me, starting conversations with people whose views and values are different from mine, because I have no problem going into Black spaces and making friends and having conversation. I have no problems going into LGBT spaces and feeling comfortable and accepted. It's the spaces where I don't feel accepted or where I don't feel understood, where the work is needed, and where I would give the suggestion to people to push themselves outside their comfort zone.
Yes, unfortunately, we have to wrap it up because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But I want to thank you all for this discussion. I mean, this has been great, and for being really responsive to all of the questions and coming in here very open and honest about your views and your story. It's much appreciated and much needed. I mean, as we keep talking about, it always comes back to this, getting to know people that come from different places than you are. And I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for submitting questions, all of our attendees. We also appreciate that so much. If you all have further questions or further inquiries or want to interact with some resources, there's a lot of amazing places to go on campus. The Office of Equity and Diversity, OED, is incredible, and they have so many resources on their webpage, and everyone that works there is amazing. I definitely suggest and recommend checking them out, as well as, the Ladonia Wright Cultural Center is amazing. There's so many things. So if you wanted to get in touch with those, please don't hesitate to reach out to those places. But thank you again to our panelists for coming here so last minute. We cannot express how much we appreciate you all. This has been amazing, and we hope to continue having things like this in the future. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.